I always think whenever I have so much money with me, like we had today or yesterday, I was like, okay.
Good to know.
And then, but then I think there's kind of trust also between us and them that we create while interacting with them, because they share quite personal things with us.
And Ted was there as well.
But like this morning, I was alone with this guy in the container and so much money. And yeah, I was like, what are they? And then I told them, okay, come one by one and everything. Just trying to control them
in a way.
But it was fun, you know, like, yeah. I guess they know that if they cheat us, I know they will.
I mean, Renault is still around, and they know that they better not do that.
I think it's more about some kind of respect going on. Yeah. But that's a question I have, basically. Like, why don't they steal from us? Like, touch wood. But, yeah.
But I guess with us, they would have to be a bit more, maybe not violent, but they would have to do something really bold, right? They would have to like go take your bag and run away with it. Whereas maybe with those richer guys, they can just kind of say, yeah, I'll buy you something, and then never come back, and they don't have to face anything.
Yeah, with us, we'll need to have a little bit of violence. Yeah. But then I tell myself, but look at Jean-Paul. He took the risk of stealing from like his neighbor, like Marie, and Mary Jane. And they live in the same neighborhood. Like, they will always be after each other. But yet, you see, the thing is that they get over it so quickly. Have you noticed?
Yeah. But that's how they say the first or second day of training, when they said about there's no friendship whatsoever in drugs. It's like we all know if there's a relationship, it's a win-win. But if we can, it's going to be a win-lose relationship, and then life goes on because we just know that's how it is. It's funny also because when I was speaking to Renault today, so I made another field note on Renault today. He said, I hated when I was on brown sugar because I was so cruel. And I said, what do you mean by that? This word is quite heavy, right? Heavy, it's a heavy word.
Cruel?
Cruel, yeah. And I said, how? He said, because like I stole from my own brother and I was violent to him and I didn't have any pity. And that's what I hated myself during that period, and I'm so glad that I'm not on it anymore, because I even notice it with my friends. Like, you just change your behavior so much, you lose your friends, you lose any trust that you have in humanity. You just become someone that is not you. So I was just really impressed with what he said. And then now he's back to smoking, so he made that big difference between smoking. Even if you smoke brown, it's like you're a cool guy, you smoke. It's kind of like this weed vibe of marijuana guys, and they identify more with marijuana guys, whereas when you inject,
it's like cruel people.
Even if you inject Subutex and not brown, you inject and you become more cruel, and maybe because the withdrawal is different as well. But yeah, he said he hated himself.
So now he smokes?
He smokes only, yeah. I think.
Do you know how often he smokes?
I think every day for sure, and he says every morning and to get to bed. If he doesn't smoke, he falls asleep around 5 in the morning. That's when he needs to wake up for work. So he needs to smoke every night.
To sleep.
But he said that he was the only guy, he thinks, everyone he knows, who transitioned from injecting brown to smoking only. He said you would never see that. You would get people go for methadone or go clean, but you never get this transition of like injecting.
So now he kind of controls his addiction.
Definitely.
He's very smart, isn't he?
Yeah. I think because he doesn't have. So I learned that his father and his mother died when he was 15. So he had to care for his brothers.
That's when he stopped school. When he was 15.
15, yeah. And he said basically, when he was smoking, he was still fine, but then that's why he moved out to the, how do you say toll in English? To the
corrugated iron sheet house.
Yeah, there you go. You can see you've been in research for a long time. And he said that's when I moved, because I was stealing too much from my brother.
How old was he?
I don't know, he didn't say. But he injected only for a year.
How old was he when he started injecting?
He didn't say. He said he started smoking synthetics when his parents died, And then he had a friend who was injecting Subutex, and he was smoking Subutex. But one night, the guy came with 2 syringes and Subutex already diluted. So he didn't have a choice, basically, because he was on withdrawal, he didn't have any money. It was 7 p.m, so he said, whatever, I'm just going to go. And then he just transitioned.
It's quite interesting because his parents died and he stopped school to look after his younger siblings. So basically he went to work to be able to support them. But then at the same time,
he needed to cope in some way.
At the same time, he needed to cope in some way. And then once the siblings grew up, he started stealing from them.
Yeah. And
while he was supporting them
at the same time
before.
Yeah, but he said when he started injecting Brown and Subutex, he puts it in the same bag, in the same basket, basically. For him, injecting is injecting. He said he was really good at work, really precise, endurant, performing excellent work. So I don't think it goes with like not supporting them anymore. He was still supporting them even if he was injecting. And funnily enough, he talked about the environment, because his friend who was his partner of drugs, who now is in Rodrigue, and he stopped drugs because he's there. It's so hard to get drugs in Rodrigue. So he kind of said, when you're not in the environment, it's easier to stop. So that was interesting. He said he went to his aunt, who lives in a very rural area where it's really hard to get drugs. And he said, because I knew it was hard and I didn't see it, it wasn't in front of me, I didn't inject for 1 week. And then I was going back to Baie du Tombeau. And on my way, I stepped to Port Louis, and I was 2 minutes in Port Louis, and I felt the withdrawal symptoms. Just because I knew it was available. So I thought that was super interesting.
This is what everyone says, you know. So many people have said they need to get out of there.
Yeah.
Like, their plan to stop is to... Leave, yeah. Did I tell you about how people... Did we talk about this? How people see methadone as evil? We did talk about it.
It's another dependency.
Yeah. So this is quite interesting because no one sees methadone as like a alternative where you can have like a normal life and it's quite interesting.
That's what Reynolds said. He said, I don't know why people said that about methadone, because when I was injecting, as long as you have money and you can still pay for your fixes, you can work and you're super endurant and you can work double if you want. You can wake up super early, you're fit, you're really precise. He said something so funny. He said when he just injected Brown, he would clean his apartment completely, his place where he lives completely, and he would be really precise with everything, like put everything like millimeter by millimeter. He would clean everything, even clean the chairs and the how do you say, the foot of the chair. He said, like, I'm so precise, and at work I'm like a Superman. So for us it's like, okay, you're injecting, you cannot work, but for him it was almost the opposite. Like, you're so endurant.
But
as long as you have money again.
Yeah, that's it. As long as you have money. So he has money. And even though his consumption increased, he could still sustain it, you see?
Yeah.
So it was not a problem as long as he could sustain his addiction.
Yeah. Also, a very interesting thing is his good friend who now is in Rodrigue, he was dating a sex worker, and he only did that because he said machine à sous. She was like a cash machine, basically. She would come back from work and have like 5,600 rupees to spend on drugs. She would buy for him, she would buy for his friend, and they would have like parties of brown sugar, basically.
Whose girlfriend was this?
The girlfriend of Reynolds' friend, who is now in Rodrigue and who stopped now, because he went to Rodrigue when he learned that he was HIV positive, even though he was negative before he dated her.
I think I know who it is.
I don't know, he didn't say a name.
It's so funny how this word is so small.
It's a small island, I guess. But yeah, he said now he's in Rodrigue, he doesn't see him anymore, and this guy doesn't want to go back to Mauritius only because of drugs. He knows he will fall back into it because he's going to go back to Baie du Tombeau, all his friends are there, and boom. That's his only way.
Did he tell you his name?
No.
So he says he doesn't want to see his friend?
No, because he said that's the reason why he started injecting is because of him, because that night, so he talks about the Friday. So Friday is when you get your pay, so it's party of drugs, you spend all your money in that. But that week, the Renault didn't work at all. So he was just waiting for him to come back to get the Subutex. But the